We have to eat what we catch because we live on our own revenues. We don't tax. We have to be extremely efficient, and the infrastructure around ports and maritime is extremely expensive. And I have to tell you, coming from the West Coast, it's even more expensive to build on the Mississippi River because of the soil issues and the bank issues. So it's really important that we think very strategically about where our funds go. When you talk about economic impact and how does employment work, we directly hire people, our tenants hire people, the shipping companies, the cruise lines, but also we contract for services, engineering, professional services. And we've had a very big focus on rebuilding and centralizing our procurement process to make it easier, make it more clear to organizations, how do I do business with the Port of New Orleans? And we've had a big emphasis on small business and female-owned businesses, as well as all local business, so that they have an opportunity too to work with the Port of New Orleans. Now, why is New Orleans so successful as a cargo port? In the industry, typically a shipper chooses a port because it's next to a very large population. I can get my product right to the customer, or they choose it because there's a big manufacturing or distribution centers. That's not necessarily Louisiana. If you think about how we compete in the Gulf, we're right next to Texas. Their population is extraordinarily big compared to ours. The reason we compete is because of the 6 Class 1s in the New Orleans public belt. We have access to that entire population through the Midwest all the way up to Canada. And so in essence, it expands our market and expands our reach. And that network is extremely important because we are the only port that gets all 6 Class 1 railroads to its docks. The thing about the cruise business, it's not extremely profitable to the port. We get some dockage fees, a passenger fee, but the economic spend-off is huge for the cruise business. When you have a home-ported ship, people think about passengers coming and going, but those ships have to buy new flowers, buy local food, insurance, linens, dry cleaning, you name it. And kind of an industry standard, every home-ported call can bring $2 million in economic impact per call. And about 80% of our passengers come from out of state. What's interesting about New Orleans is most passengers want to make it 2 vacations where they come for 2 nights before or 2 nights afterwards. So it drives a lot of hotel room nights and a lot of local purchasing and tourism activities. Ports can only operate on water. We can't go inland. It was a huge issue in San Diego. People want to be on the water. They want to have access to it. So that naturally creates a tension. And if you look at a lot of our facilities, like you mentioned, they were built from a historical standpoint to move commerce, but neighborhoods grew up around them. So absolutely, that's a tension. And that's part of us needing to have that ongoing conversation because both things impact each other. And so, many countries, many people know how to coexist and make that work, and we just got to make sure we do a better job with that. In terms of access, there's a couple of things that we've done. As a port, you've got to get through the 10 and the 90, that congestion over by the Superdome. Our trucks have to converse that. Tchoupitoulas is incredibly congested. I drive it every morning to go to work, and it has been an issue for major customers that we've lost business because they've said, we don't know that you can handle it, because we can grow the port in the terminal, but we need the access. You have 2 of the biggest economic engines sitting on the same corridor, and I think there was tension there, and from my perspective, Louisiana, New Orleans deserves for both of those to expand. And if you look at the economic impact of that together, we're way more powerful. We can compete for federal funding for highway projects. Having access to the 6 Class 1s is essential to what we do. The public belt was created to be that neutral carrier because typically what you'll see in any port or industry is that if one Class 1 kind of dominates the track, that the others are somewhat shut out. And they're not going to worry as much about community impacts and those types of issues. So the public belt was created to be the neutral party in between those 6 Class 1s. The port, all of the tenants, the users, and all 6 Class 1s, I think, have said very loudly that they believe that the public belt is serving its purpose, that they are very happy with the level of service, and that the rates are competitive. So we really don't believe that there's a necessary change there. Can you be more effective? Can you create savings? Absolutely. Every government agency should be doing that. But it has, been rather disruptive. This has been a dialogue for 2 years, and it has shut down a lot of business opportunities because people need to know, what rates am I going to be paying? We have no idea who's going to own this thing. So a decision has to be made. It's not very often that 200 plus acres opens up on the Mississippi. The challenge with that project has been, one, don't really know what the environmental situation is. It was a shipyard, but also the asking price has been very high, and they want to sell it as one piece versus a lot of people were interested in 20 acres here, 20 acres there. So the concept that the port has looked at is that's what we do, is we're a master developer and we piece these types of tenancies together. So we've done a lot of analysis on that side and have been talking to private companies that are interested in either cargo activities or some type of light manufacturing there. So if we could bring together enough parties and bring in some private money, that's what it's going to take. We don't have that amount of money. The state definitely doesn't have it, is that we've got to find some private sector partners that could help open a project like that.